It was supposed to be a day of closure, the day I said my final goodbye to the man I loved for 12 years. But closure is You've reached Daniel. Leave a message. I whispered into the phone, Daniel, if this is you, please, just tell me where you are. No reply. Sleep didn't come that night. Every sound in the house made me jump. The clock ticking, the wind against the window, the faint hum of the refrigerator, everything felt wrong. The next morning, I went to the police station. Officer Miller, the one who'd handled Daniel's case, looked at me with concern. Mrs. Hayes, you said you received a message from your husband's number. Yes, I said, showing him the phone. It came during the funeral. He frowned, tapping through his computer. The phone was listed as missing from the crash. It wasn't recovered with the body. So, someone could have it. He nodded slowly. It's possible. But we confirmed dental records, Mrs. Hayes. The body was your husband's. I wanted to believe him, but doubt was already planted deep inside me. Something didn't add up. Daniel was careful, meticulous, especially when it came to driving. The accident report said it was a single-car crash. No witnesses. No surveillance. I left the station more confused than before. At home, I went through Daniel's things, his desk, his computer, even the drawer he'd always told me not to touch. For the first time, I noticed things that didn't make sense: a second phone charger I'd never seen before, an unfamiliar set of keys, and a locked black notebook. The lock was small. I broke it open with a hairpin. Inside were notes, pages of names, dates, and cryptic phrases like shipment April, check with L before signing, and if something happens, don't call them. Who was L? Who was he not supposed to call? And what did shipment mean? As I flipped through the pages, my phone buzzed again. A new message. Same number. Don't go to the police again. Watch your back. My blood ran cold. If it really was Daniel, why would he tell me not to go to the police? I texted back, Daniel, please. I need to see you. Are you in danger? No response. I waited. Hours passed. Nothing. Later that night, someone knocked on the door. 3 soft knocks. When I opened it, there was no one there. Just an envelope on the mat. My hands shook as I picked it up and tore it open. Inside was a photo: Daniel, alive, standing next to a car. The timestamp showed it was taken 2 days ago. And underneath the photo, a note: "You're next if you talk." I sank to the floor, my breath catching in my throat. That was the moment I realized. This wasn't about grief anymore. It was about survival. And whatever secret Daniel had been hiding, it hadn't died with him. When you think you've already lost everything, fear hits differently. It doesn't come as a scream, it whispers. Quietly. Constantly. That night after I found the photo, I sat by the window until sunrise, clutching my phone, waiting for another message. Every car that passed outside made my chest tighten. Every shadow looked like someone watching. The world didn't feel real anymore. By morning, I knew I couldn't stay in that house. I packed a small bag, clothes, Daniel's notebook, my phone, and left. I drove to my sister's place across town. Rebecca had always been the practical one, the calm to my chaos. When she opened the door and saw my face, she didn't even ask at first, she just hugged me. What happened? She finally asked once we sat down with coffee. I told her everything: the messages, the photo, the warning note. She listened silently, her expression shifting from disbelief to fear. "Are you sure it's not some sick prank?" she asked. I thought so too, but look. I handed her the photo. That was taken 2 days ago. Rebecca stared at it for a long time. "If this is real, you need to go to the FBI, not the local police." But her words echoed in my mind: don't go to the police again. I didn't know who I could trust anymore. That evening, as Rebecca and I watched the sunset from her living room, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then froze. "What is it?" I asked. Her voice trembled. It's from an unknown number." She turned the screen toward me. It was a picture of me, taken from across the street, just minutes ago. The message said, "Told you not to talk." We both jumped to our feet, Rebecca rushing to the window. The street was quiet. A car passed, headlights gliding over the houses, but we couldn't see anyone. I grabbed my bag. I have to go. They're watching me. Rebecca grabbed my arm. You're not going anywhere alone. But deep down, I knew if she stayed near me, she'd be in danger too. I'll be fine, I lied. I just need to think. I'll check into a motel. I left her house under the cover of darkness, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. I didn't drive straight, I switched routes, doubled back, even parked for a while in a supermarket lot to make sure no one was following me. By the time I reached a small roadside motel, I was shaking. The clerk, a tired-looking man with coffee stains on his shirt, barely looked up when I asked for a room. Cash only, he muttered. That was fine. I didn't want a record of where I was. Once inside, I locked the door, pulled the curtains shut, and sat on the bed with Daniel's notebook. There had to be something in there, something that explained all this. Flipping through the pages, I noticed a phone number written beside the name L. I dialed it, holding my breath. After a few rings, a woman's voice answered. Hello. Hi, I said cautiously. This is, Sarah Hayes. I'm Daniel's wife. There was a long silence. Then a sharp intake of breath. Sarah. Oh my God. You shouldn't have called me. Who are you? I worked with Daniel. Listen to me, if he contacted you, you're in danger. What was he involved in? I asked, my voice trembling. The line went quiet again, then she whispered, he found something he wasn't supposed to. And now they think you know too. Who's they? Before she could answer, I heard a loud thud through the phone and then the line went dead. I stared at my phone in disbelief. Someone had silenced her. I didn't sleep that night. I kept hearing noises outside the motel, footsteps, whispers, the creak of the floorboards. At one point, I thought I saw a shadow move past my window, but when I looked, no one was there. Just after 3 a.m., my phone buzzed again. A new message from Daniel's number. You need to leave town. They found me once. Don't let them find you. I typed quickly, fingers shaking. Daniel, please. Tell me where you are. No reply. Another message came instead. Go to the storage unit on 5th and Grant. Code 4729. Don't trust Rebecca. I froze. Don't trust Rebecca? Why would he say that? My sister. The only person who'd tried to help me. But before I could question it, headlights flashed outside my window. A car had pulled up, no license plate visible. I grabbed my bag and slipped out the back door of the motel. The cold air stung my face as I ran across the parking lot. Behind me, the sound of a car door opening made my blood run cold. Someone was coming. I ducked behind a dumpster and held my breath. 2 figures walked toward the motel room I'd just left. One of them had a flashlight. Room 12. That's her, a man's voice said. They kicked the door open. I watched from the shadows as they tore through the room, searching. My phone buzzed again. Get to the storage unit. Now. I didn't think. I just ran. The storage facility was about a mile away. By the time I reached it, my lungs burned and my hands were shaking. I found Unit 14, typed in the code 4729 and the lock clicked open. Inside, it was dark except for the faint glow of a single emergency light overhead. The air smelled of dust and oil. There were boxes stacked to the ceiling and a laptop sitting on a workbench. When I opened it, a video started playing automatically. Daniel's face appeared on the screen. He looked exhausted, unshaven, tense. Sarah, he began, his voice cracking. If you're seeing this, I'm already gone. I don't have time to explain everything, but you need to know I didn't die in that crash. It was staged. I couldn't breathe. He continued, I found something at work, documents, financial transfers. Millions being moved under fake accounts. I tried to report it, but the people behind it, they're powerful. I went into hiding, but they found me once before. I think they're watching you now. He leaned closer to the camera. You can't trust anyone, not even. The screen froze. The video cut off abruptly. I hit the spacebar, the enter key, nothing. The file was corrupted. Tears blurred my vision. Daniel, What did you get yourself into? I whispered. Suddenly, headlights swept across the entrance of the storage lot. A car had pulled in. Panic surged through me. I grabbed the laptop and darted behind a stack of boxes. The sound of footsteps echoed closer, slow, deliberate. A man's voice called out, "Mrs. Hayes, you shouldn't have come here." I recognized that voice. It was Officer Miller. The same cop who'd told me my husband's body was confirmed. He stepped into the light, his hand resting casually on his holster. "Let's make this easy. You have something that doesn't belong to you." I tightened my grip on the laptop. "Where's Daniel?" He smirked. "You should stop asking questions you don't want the answers to." Before I could react, my phone buzzed again, a new message. "Run." I threw the laptop at the shelves, sending boxes crashing down, and sprinted for the back exit. Miller shouted behind me, his footsteps pounding closer. I burst out into the night, climbed the fence, and ran until my legs gave out. When I finally stopped, gasping for breath under a flickering streetlight, I looked down at my phone. The message from Daniel was still glowing on the screen. But this time, there was something new below it, an attachment. A map. And on it, a single location was marked in red. "Meet me here. Tomorrow. Midnight." For the first time in weeks, I felt something I hadn't in so long, hope. Maybe Daniel really was alive. But that hope was fragile, because if Officer Miller was involved, it meant the danger wasn't just outside my door. It was everywhere. By the time morning came, I hadn't slept a single minute. I sat in an old diner off the highway, clutching a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago, staring at the red dot on the map Daniel had sent. A single word sat under it, safe house. I traced my finger over it again and again, wondering if safe even meant anything anymore. If Daniel was really alive, if this wasn't all some elaborate trick tonight, at midnight, I'd finally know the truth. But I also knew one thing: if Officer Miller had tracked me to that storage unit, he'd do it again. I needed to be ready. I bought a prepaid phone, tossed my old one in a dumpster, and checked into another motel, this time under a different name. The room smelled like cigarettes and bleach, but it was the first place that felt invisible. The rest of the day crawled by. I went through the laptop's remaining files, desperate to find something more. Most were corrupted, but one folder labeled Project Falcon opened. Inside were spreadsheets, rows and rows of wire transfers, offshore accounts, and signatures. I recognized one name immediately: Officer M. Miller. My stomach dropped. He wasn't just involved, he was part of it. By nightfall, the rain had started. Sheets of it. Heavy, relentless. I drove with my headlights off down back roads, every turn of the wheel feeling like a heartbeat. My pulse thudded in my ears as I followed the map's red route 20 miles out of town, into the woods. The safe house turned out to be a weathered cabin surrounded by pine trees, barely visible in the storm. Its windows were dark, but one faint light flickered inside. I parked a distance away, grabbed the small revolver Daniel had kept hidden in his desk, and approached. Every step crunched in the wet gravel. The closer I got, the more my hands shook. When I reached the porch, I knocked twice, then once more, just like Daniel used to when he came home late. For a moment, nothing. Just the sound of rain hitting the roof. Then, the door creaked open. And there he was. Daniel. Alive. I froze, tears instantly burning in my eyes. He looked thinner, paler, his beard grown out, but it was him, the same eyes, the same way he tilted his head when he saw me. "Sarah," he whispered. "You shouldn't have come." I didn't know whether to hug him or hit him. I stepped forward, trembling. "You're alive. My God, Daniel. They buried someone else in your place." He looked down, guilt clouding his face. "I know. It wasn't supposed to go that far. I had to disappear. I could barely breathe." "Disappear? Do you have any idea what I've been through? I thought you were dead." He reached for my hands. "Listen to me. There's no time. The people I was working for, they're not just dirty cops. They're running money through shell companies, hiding government contracts. I found proof. Miller was their fixer." I pulled my hands back. "You could have told me. You could have trusted me." I couldn't, he said quietly. They were watching you. If they knew you knew anything, they'd use you to get to me. My voice cracked. They already did. He looked up sharply. What do you mean? I told him about the messages, the photo, the threats. His face went pale. They know you're alive, Daniel. They're coming for both of us. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing. Then we need to finish what I started. The files on that laptop, they're not enough. There's one more drive, hidden in the city. Where? He hesitated. Inside Miller's office. My stomach twisted. You want us to break into a police station? He met my eyes. It's the only way. The storm didn't stop, and neither did the fear. We planned every detail: entry, backup drive, escape route. It felt like something out of a movie, except it was real, and the stakes were our lives. By 11:30 p.m., we were parked outside the back of the police department. The building looked almost peaceful, the glow of fluorescent lights flickering through the rain. Daniel handed me an earpiece. If anything goes wrong, you leave. Don't wait for me. I shook my head. Not again. He smiled faintly, that same half-smile I'd fallen in love with. You always were stubborn. We moved quickly, using a maintenance door Daniel had once gotten access to as part of his job. The hallway inside was quiet, empty except for the hum of security lights. My heart hammered as we reached Miller's office. Daniel picked the lock, just like he'd done 100 times with broken desk drawers at home. Inside, papers were everywhere: files, photos, receipts. He went straight to the safe behind the cabinet. Keep watch, he whispered. I stood by the door, listening. Every sound felt amplified: the buzz of the light, the drip of rain from our coats. Then, the click of the safe. He pulled out a small black hard drive. This is it, he said. But before we could move, a voice echoed from the hallway. Well, the dead man finally shows up. Miller stood there, gun drawn, a satisfied smirk spreading across his face. I told them you'd come back for it, he said, stepping closer. You always were predictable, Daniel. Daniel moved in front of me instinctively. It's over, Miller. I've got everything: the transfers, the accounts. The FBI will bury you. Miller laughed. You really think they're clean? You're naive. He raised his gun. I screamed, and Daniel tackled him. The gun went off once, twice, deafening in the small room. I ducked, covering my head as papers flew everywhere. When the noise stopped, Miller lay on the floor, motionless. Daniel was slumped against the desk, his hand pressed against his side. Blood. No, I whispered, running to him. Daniel, stay with me. Please. He grabbed my wrist weakly. Take the drive. Get out. Not without you. He smiled faintly, eyes glassy. You always were terrible at following orders. And then, his hand went limp. I screamed his name, shaking him, begging him to wake up, but he didn't. The next minutes were chaos. Sirens blared. Officers flooded the hallways. I grabbed the drive and ran, tears blurring my vision. By the time I reached the car, my body was shaking so hard I could barely turn the key. I looked back once, through the rain, through the flashing lights, and saw them carrying Daniel's body out on a stretcher. This time, it was real. He was gone. But I had what he died for. By dawn, I was miles away, parked at a gas station off the interstate. The drive sat in my lap, small and unassuming, the evidence that had destroyed my life. I thought of calling Rebecca, but I couldn't. Not yet. I didn't know who was safe anymore. I stared at the sunrise breaking over the horizon and whispered, I'll finish this, Daniel. I'll make them pay. I plugged the drive into a laptop and opened the folder labeled Proof. Inside were hundreds of documents, contracts, bank records, names of high-ranking officials. Enough to bring down half the department. And at the very end, one final video file titled Final Message. With trembling hands, I pressed play. Daniel appeared again, his eyes filled with something I hadn't seen before: peace. If you're watching this, he said softly, it means I didn't make it. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from all this. But you were the only one I trusted to finish what I started. Don't let them silence the truth. And Sarah, Remember, I'll always love you. The screen went dark. And for the first time in weeks, I let myself cry. Not out of fear. Not out of grief. But because I finally understood this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of justice. When someone you love dies twice, the second time, it doesn't shatter you. It hollows you. I drove for hours without knowing where I was going. The rain had stopped, but the storm inside me hadn't. Daniel was gone again, but this time, he'd left me with something powerful. Proof. The flash drive he'd died for sat on the passenger seat beside me. That little piece of plastic was the only thing standing between me and the people who had destroyed my life. I replayed his final message in my head, over and over. Don't let them silence the truth. That's when I made my decision. If Daniel had trusted me to finish what he started, then I would. The next morning, I stopped at a library 2 towns over. I couldn't risk using my own laptop again, it was probably being tracked. I paid cash for a day pass, sat down at one of the computers, and plugged in the flash drive. The files opened easily. Every document was dated, signed, authenticated, transfers from fake charities, government projects, and offshore accounts. But one file stopped me cold. A list of names under the heading Internal Operations, Clearance Level 4. Halfway down the list. Rebecca Hayes. My sister. My pulse spiked. I stared at the screen, rereading it, hoping I was wrong. But there it was, her name, her address, and a bank transfer that matched one of the accounts Daniel had traced. I felt sick. The message Daniel had sent flashed in my memory, "Don't trust Rebecca." I didn't want to believe it. My sister, my only family. Could she have been part of this the entire time? I logged off quickly, downloaded everything to a new encrypted drive, and left the library. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. If Rebecca was involved, I needed answers, but I had to be careful. That evening, I drove back toward the city, blending in with traffic, changing routes twice. By the time I reached Rebecca's neighborhood, the sun was setting behind the trees, casting long shadows across her driveway. Her car was there. Lights on inside. I parked a block away and approached on foot. Through the front window, I could see her sitting at the kitchen table, typing on her laptop. The same laptop she'd used when she said she was helping me search for Daniel's records weeks ago. But now, something about the way she kept glancing at her phone made my stomach twist. I knocked on the door softly. When she opened it, her expression shifted, surprise, then hesitation, then that familiar warm smile she always wore when she saw me. "Sarah. Oh my God, you're safe. I've been calling you for days." I stepped inside, forcing a shaky smile. "Sorry. Things got complicated." She closed the door behind me. "You look exhausted. Sit down, I'll make tea." I sat, watching her every move. My heart raced. When she set the mug in front of me, I didn't drink it. I just stared at her. "Becca, what if I told you I found Daniel?" Her hand froze mid-air. "What do you mean found?" "He's alive." She blinked just once, and for the briefest moment, her expression changed. A flicker of something cold. Calculated. Then it was gone. "Sarah, that's impossible. You're just grieving. You've been through so much." I reached into my bag and placed the flash drive on the table. "He sent me this. Before he died again." The color drained from her face. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. My chest tightened. "So it's true." She stood up slowly, taking a step back. "You don't understand. I didn't have a choice, Sarah. They came to me after the accident. They said if I didn't cooperate, they'd kill you." I rose to my feet. "You worked with them?" Tears welled in her eyes. "I thought I was protecting you. They said Daniel was dangerous, that he stole classified data. I swear, I didn't know the truth until it was too late." "Too late for what?" "For him." The words hit like a punch to the chest. I stepped closer. "Who are they, Rebecca? Who's behind this?" She looked away, voice trembling. "It's not just the police. It's a private network, contractors tied to defense deals. Miller was just one piece. They wanted Daniel's data erased, and anyone connected to him gone." I felt my world tilt again. And now they'll come for me. Rebecca wiped her eyes. You still have time. There's someone Daniel trusted, an agent. He used to mention her. Emily Ward, FBI. If you can get the files to her, she can expose everything. I stared at her, unsure if I could believe anything anymore. Why should I trust you? Because, she said softly, I've been trying to fix what I did ever since that night. And because they're already watching this house. Before I could react, the sound of tires screeching outside made us both jump. Rebecca ran to the window. They're here. I grabbed the flash drive, stuffing it into my jacket. Back door, she whispered. Go now. What about you? She smiled through tears. I'll stall them. Just, don't let his death mean nothing. The front door burst open before I reached the back. Armed men flooded in, dark suits, earpieces, silent efficiency. Rebecca shouted, she's gone. I ducked out into the alley, heart pounding, and sprinted toward my car. Behind me, I heard shouting, then gunshots. I turned just long enough to see one of the men drag Rebecca to the floor. And then I ran. By the time I reached the city limits, my hands were trembling so badly I could barely grip the wheel. The rain had started again, turning the world into streaks of grey and red lights. I followed the directions Rebecca had given me downtown, to a high-rise building with an unmarked office on the 10th floor. Inside, a woman in a dark blazer sat behind a desk, her eyes sharp and wary. Sarah Hayes, she asked quietly. I nodded, clutching the drive. Daniel trusted you. Her expression softened. Emily Ward. He said you might come. I handed her the drive. Everything's in here. Transfers, names, proof that Miller and his network killed him. She plugged it into her laptop, scanning through the files quickly. This is enough to open a federal case. We can bring them down. Tears burned in my eyes. Then do it. Please. She looked up. You need to understand, Sarah. Once we move on this, your life changes. Witness protection. New name. New home. You'll disappear for good. I took a deep breath. Then that's what it takes. She nodded, typing rapidly. We'll need to move fast. If they realize you're alive, they'll come for you. Before I could respond, a loud explosion rocked the building. The lights flickered. Alarms blared. Emily's eyes widened. They know. She grabbed my arm. Come on, there's a secure exit. We ran through the smoke-filled hallway as the sound of gunfire echoed behind us. My lungs burned, but I didn't stop. When we finally burst through the back door into the cold night air, she shoved a file into my hands. This is the case number. If anything happens to me, give it to the media. Then she turned back toward the building. Go, Sarah. Run. I hesitated, then ran into the dark, clutching the file to my chest as flames lit up the sky behind me. Hours later, I stood on a hill overlooking the burning city. Sirens wailed in the distance, and my clothes were soaked through. Daniel was gone. Rebecca was gone. Emily. I didn't even know if she survived. But I had what they didn't, the truth. I whispered into the wind, you didn't die for nothing, Daniel. Then I opened my phone, logged into the secure link Emily had given me, and uploaded every file to every major news outlet, government agency, and press network in the country. For a moment, I watched the progress bar climb 30%, 60%, 90%. And when it finally hit 100%, I closed my eyes. Whatever happened next, at least the world would finally know. The sun hadn't risen yet when I finally stopped running. The sky was that deep grey that only happens before dawn, quiet, empty, holding its breath. I was standing on the edge of an abandoned bridge miles outside the city, soaked, shaking, staring at the black water below. Behind me, the glow of fire was fading into the distance. Everything I'd known, my home, my sister, my husband, was gone. But the truth was out. And for the first time in months, the silence didn't feel like fear. It felt like freedom. When the news broke, it hit the world like a thunderclap. Headlines screamed across every channel, defense contractor exposed in secret killings and data manipulation scandal. High-level corruption tied to fatal cover-up. The files Daniel and I released went viral within hours. Miller, the man who'd hunted him, was arrested trying to flee the country. Senators denied involvement. Companies shut down overnight. And yet, no one mentioned me. That was Emily's doing. Before she disappeared, she had erased my name from everything. To the world, Daniel was the hero, the whistleblower who risked everything to reveal the truth. And I was just gone. 2 weeks later, I sat in a quiet diner off a dusty highway, using the name Sarah Lane. A small note sat folded in my pocket, the last message Emily had sent me before the explosion. They'll come looking. Don't go home. Don't contact anyone. You did what he couldn't. Now live. I wanted to believe her. But it wasn't that simple. Every night, I dreamed of Daniel's voice. Of the message that had started it all. I'm still alive. Trust no one. Even though the world now knew his story, it didn't know mine. And the truth. Some part of me wasn't sure it ever should. A soft voice pulled me out of my thoughts. Coffee refill? The waitress smiled, young and kind, her name tag said Lily. Please, I said, pushing the mug forward. As she poured, she nodded toward the TV behind the counter. Crazy stuff on the news, huh? That whistleblower story? They say he saved hundreds of lives exposing those guys. I smiled faintly. Yeah, he did. Lily sighed. Wish there were more people like that. People who actually do the right thing, you know? I met her eyes. It costs more than people think. She looked puzzled, then walked away. I took a sip of my coffee, staring at my reflection in the window, a woman who looked nothing like the one who had once buried her husband. As the days turned into weeks, I started to build something resembling a life. A small rented cabin. A new ID. A job under a fake name. But peace never stayed long. Sometimes I'd see black cars parked too long outside the store. Sometimes I'd get phone calls with silence on the other end. And sometimes, I'd swear I saw him. A tall figure in a grey coat. Always just far enough away that I couldn't be sure. Once, I chased him down the street, my heart racing, my voice cracking as I shouted, Daniel. But when I turned the corner, there was no one. Only the wind. 3 months later, I received a package with no return address. Inside was a single photograph, grainy, printed from security footage. It showed Daniel, alive, standing at a train station in Berlin. On the back, in his handwriting, it's not over. They still have eyes everywhere. Stay hidden. I'll find you when it's safe. I dropped the photo, my breath catching. He was alive. Truly alive. Everything I'd done, the pain, the loss, it hadn't been for nothing. But that also meant, the danger wasn't over. From that day on, I stopped waiting for peace. Because peace is just the quiet between storms. I learned to move every few months. Change names. New jobs. New towns. And everywhere I went, I left little pieces of our story behind, encrypted files, safety copies, hidden drives, just in case. If they ever found me again, I wanted the truth to outlive both of us. Sometimes, I'd sit by the window at night, look up at the stars, and whisper, I'm still here. And somewhere out there, I hoped Daniel was whispering back. Years passed. The world forgot. The scandal faded under new headlines. But I never stopped running. Until one morning, I woke up to find an envelope slipped under my door. No name. No address. Just a seal, the same symbol that had been on Daniel's old research files. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a single note. It's over. They're gone.